There are a handful of places where you want to intentionally discard the identity of a view to tell SwiftUI that two instances of your view are different no matter what it might think. For example, we could make a list that shuffles its data when a button's tapped. We could say something like at state private var items is an array of 1 through 20, like that. And then our body, I'll say, is a VStack with spacing of 0. And then a list of our items identified by self, \self even. There we go. And then text of, let's say, item $0. And then below the list, I say there's a button saying shuffle. And with animation, here I'll say items.shuffle. So it's randomized every time. Let's add a bit of styling to this. Perhaps we could say button style of bordered prominent and padding 5, like that. And hopefully in our preview we can see, being well, that thing there. And that with animation function call here will trigger the default iOS animation like this, and you'll sort of slide around like that on the screen. It's probably better seeing the simulator actually a bit clearer on a bigger screen. There we go. Slide around nice like that. That's maybe what you want, and in many places it's exactly what you want, but sometimes it can be rather hard on the eye. You know, when every row is changing like this, there's a lot of jumble. It's not clear what's actually changing. If it's one thing, it'll be clear. When it's 20 things, it's not clear anymore. To fix this, we can provide SwiftUI with an explicit identity for our list, but use a random value for that identity. So it changes every time the view is evaluated. This means SwiftUI sees the same structural location for our list, but a different explicit identity, and so we'll consider the two lists to be different. In practice, it will just remove one, insert the other with a default fade transition, just by saying .id is a UUID, like this. And that immediately looks better when many rows are changing. It just fades them out and fades in new ones like that. Looks really nice. But it also means we now have complete control over the way the animation happens, rather than being forced to use the default sort of list reorder animation. So we could say, actually, I want to have a 1 second ease in, ease out animation. Like here, I'll do .ease in out duration 1, and now we'll see them animate just a bit more smoothly like that. Or we could add a custom transition rather than fading every single time. We could say, yeah, you've got an ID, it's different every time, but for the transition, I want to use an asymmetric transition when we insert move with the edge of trailing, and we remove, I want to move with the edge of leading. And now what will happen is our lists will slide in like that as they are reordered. And we now have complete control of the animation. We can create something less intense than the default sort of everything moves, or just plain different like our edge transition. And if you tap shuffle quickly, you'll see actually you can do multiple lists overlapping like that. They're sliding in, they arrive and depart in quick succession because it's creating many views here. Now remember, discarding identity does create more views. We have the downside of that it will destroy any data storage we had, and any platform views, of course, will be recreated. So be careful. There's obviously a cost to this work happening here, particularly when dealing with more complex views like a list. That's why I can show many at a time, because it's making many platform views. In the simplest case, this approach is really useful when you want the user to cycle through various options at the same time. For example, we could make a simple sort of icon generator using random colors and SF symbols. Let's get rid of some code here and here. Let's say we have our colors will be a color array of .blue, .cyan. Let's use gray, and then what's next? Green. There we go, and then indigo, and then mint, and then orange, and then pink, purple, and red. I think that's most of them. Brown, perhaps. That's most of them. And then symbols can be an array of strings. I'll use run. I'll use archery, basketball. Let's do bowling. Let's say dance. Let's say golf. Let's say hiking. Jump rope's one of them. Rugby. Tennis. whole bunch of actions these days in SF symbols. It's really good for tennis volleyball, volleyball, talking too much. And do one more, let's do yoga. Okay, there's our colors and our symbols. And then our body, I'm gonna say there's a V stack here with a Z stack inside containing a circle filled with our random color. So I'll do colors.random element and then force unwrap that. It's fine, there'll always be a color in there with some padding. Then overlay over that the system image of figure dot a random figure, figure.run, figure.archery, figure.whatever. Like this, we'll do symbols.random element. Again, force unwrap that. With a font of .system, size of 144, .foreground color .white. And then, critically, we're going to tell SwiftUI that this Z stack changes. So I'll say we have a transition here of slide, move in and move out somehow. Now, what I want to do is tell it every one of these is different somehow. And to do that, we'll make a randomizing ID that changes when we want. So we'll say at state, private var ID is a new UUID, and attach that to our Z stack down here. So .id is that ID, like that. And now below that, still in the V stack, will be a button saying change. On that's press trigger animation. Again, ease in out, duration of 1 second. Make a new UUID and put that into the ID, which reinvokes body, which puts a new ID into the Z stack and then causes a change. Again, we'll do a button style of bordered prominent, like that, and then padding of bottom. Oops, bottom. Boom. And now let's give it a try. And there's our little icon. That's a volleyball in orange. Change. A new one comes in. Change. Another one comes in. And it just slides them in randomly every time. And it looks like I'm making many, many views here doing all sorts of complicated work. We're not. We're just changing the Z stack's ID and SwiftUI is doing everything here. It's having it all animate, destroying the old ones, all by explicitly discarding identity.